how it's how powerful the small changes on the
Yeah.
engagement.
Yeah, I'll get super granular in some weird places. I'll give you an example of like how little you have to think, how minute you can get to have an impact. Okay. So we just did this whole review of, let's say you're promoting a sale that ends on Friday.
Okay.
Okay. Or you have a webinar that's going to occur on Friday, right? It's on Friday.
All right.
You send out an email on Thursday,
Okay.
promoting it, because tomorrow's the end of it. Tomorrow's the end of it. If you say tomorrow is the end of the sale, tomorrow is the webinar, or you say Friday is the webinar or Friday is the sale, using the word tomorrow versus the day of the week, okay, will give you actually over a 20% boost in your engagement on that email.
Amazing.
And so there are little things, right, that have a huge impact. I'll give you another example. If you start your subject line with the word exclusive, okay, instantly you will get a lift of about 15%. Exclusive : whatever. Invitation is one of the secret sauce words of email marketing. And marketers get confused. They think in order to invite somebody to something, you need to be having an event. You can invite anybody to anything. Yeah. I'm inviting you to this sale. Okay. I'm inviting you to see our latest fashions. I'm inviting you to check out our most recent content. When you see the word invitation or invited to start the subject line, invited : whatever, your invitation : whatever. Again, it's all in the subconscious. It's not like anybody's going to get that email, see that subject line, like, oh, this is great. I'm invited to open up the email. Nobody does that. But we see it. We don't know why we care, but we feel better about it that we're invited to something, and we read the rest. And that is the game. And it is a game. It is a game. How am I getting my email open? And then once you get your email open, there's 75 other things to consider, right? To get that email open. I'll tell you another thing in the subject line that does really, really well. And that is creating any kind of suspense. Any kind of suspense. You know, Amazon has really pushed this a lot. If you look at Amazon's emails over the last year, not the ones that are confirming your whatever, but a lot of Amazon's emails at the end of their subject line, they're using the 3 dots, the ... right? Okay. Yeah. They're using the ... The 3 dots at the end of a subject line that create that suspense do incredibly well, because human nature is we want to know what it is, right? What is going to be the keynote? Our keynote is ... Who is it going to be? Our biggest sale of the year starts ... Like when's it going to happen? That suspense is leading you into the email. And so when you talk about, oh, email doesn't work for me, I can't get it to perform, by using things like those 3 dots, you'll actually see engagement boosts by over 25%, usually on average, for both business and consumer marketers. And you're not doing anything. All these things that we talk about cost you nothing, take 5 seconds to do, and you can test it. You know, if we put out 10 ideas during this podcast and you test them all and 3 of them work, you might say Jay and Sel are a bunch of morons, a bunch of dummies. But the reality is you now have 3 new things in your arsenal that you can test, that you can incorporate, and that's called marketing. It's not going to all work for everybody, but little tests that equal big changes, I think, are...
Marketers are so focused in planning the campaigns and crafting the copy and visuals, and often leaves the headline for last. What's your thought on this approach?
You could not be more spot on with what you're saying. Marketers spend all their time on the creative, on their offer. They're trying to get legal approval. They're trying to make sure it all looks perfect and it's rendering in every platform you could possibly imagine. And then they finally get that all done. And then what do? They go, oh, we need a subject line. Let's spend 4 seconds you writing this thing that is going to be the primary reason somebody decides to open or not. So the subject line, in many ways, is among the most important things that you're going to utilize right there. And so a couple of things. Some people think that doing things in the subject line to stand out are gimmicks, that you shouldn't do that because it's a gimmick. Or a marketer will be like, oh, I would never open that if I saw that. That really hurts marketing in general. The name of the game is there's so many emails that are going out. What are you going to do to have your email stand out and not the other person's that's going out at the exact same time.
Yeah.
What's that thing that's going to happen when the person's scanning their inbox with that millisecond that's going to say, oh, I want to open that. So some of the things that are working really, really well right now are personalization that is not about your name. For so long, marketers have been relying on personalization of the subject line. It would say, J, comma, check out this whatever. Okay, but that every market, it worked. You rewind a few years ago, that would work great.
Yeah.
But what do we do as marketers? Once we see something working, everybody jumps on board and they abuse it.
Yeah.
And it gets to a point that it's wallpaper, and now it doesn't work as a tactic anymore. Right? And that's what happened with first name personalization for both business and consumer marketers in the subject line. But personalization in the subject line beyond name is a home run. What do I mean by that? If you are a business marketer, okay, or a consumer marketer, the sooner you could tell somebody who they are in the subject line, the more inclined they are to open up the email. What I mean by that is if your subject line is targeting, chief financial officers, and that subject line says, this is important for CFOs, right? Or for HR directors. HR directors need to know this. Or on the consumer side, perfect for new homeowners, okay? This is for people that are investors, all right? For new grandparents. Whatever it is, it could be a life stage. It could be someone's job function or title. For SMB owners. When you could tell the person that this is for you and not for everybody else, they immediately, it resonates with them when they open up. If I sent you an email, right? So if I sent you an email that says, email marketers need to know this, you're like, uh-oh.
I must open.
I'm going to open it. I mean, there's no way you're not opening that. You're opening that up. And all you're really doing is personalization, but not with the name, but with what the person cares about or their interests or their career. And it is absolutely the easiest way to get an email open right now. And then, of course, you could do a million other things. We can get into brackets and making a question and all these different things. But that, to me, is a tactic that's underutilized that does really, really well.
Amazing. You frequently demonstrated how making minor adjustment to the subject line, like adding emojis or something like that, can lead to increase in open rates and clicks, and you back it up with the data. Can you discuss this further? Give us some tips or just, data.
Absolutely. We're constantly sending out campaigns to our clients that are, real, meaning it's not based on survey. It's like we're pressing send, we're sending out to hundreds of millions of people, and we're seeing responses come in, and things are always changing. What we say today, oddly, will not be the case 6 months from now, because people may overdo it or trends will change, all sorts of stuff. Right. So little things that can have a big impact. I'll give you an example, one that does really well that most people don't consider. When your subject line actually starts with a number, it starts with a number, it will increase your engagement, your open rates significantly. The 7 reasons you need to blah, blah, blah. The 6 tips every marketer should know. The 9 things new homeowners need to have. When it starts with that number, we see a spike. And why is that? First of all, in general, the number one piece of content in the last 6 months for business or consumer is anything that's a list. We just, as humans, we love lists. The funniest thing about a list is we don't actually care who made the list. We don't even think about who made the list, who's deciding who's on the list. We just want to know what's on the list. Okay. So when when marketers say, I don't have any content to promote, I have nothing to say, I'm waiting on this big new video or this thing, I go, that's not true. I go to your website, go to any page on your website, and I can make a list of whatever's on there in about 30 seconds, right? The 7 whatevers, the 7 biggest trends this fall, the 7 pitfalls you need to avoid. Who cares? When you start a subject line with a number, it does incredibly well. The same thing with an emoji, right? You can't use an emoji in every subject line every time you send it out. But here and there, putting it in there, it will give a lift. And why do these things give a lift? Why does starting your subject line with a number or putting the most important thing in brackets to start your subject line? Like, let's say you're promoting a list that says, tip sheet. right? You put that in brackets to start your subject line. Why does capitalizing the first word of your subject line matter? Why does everything at the start of your subject line matter? Because as you're going through your inbox, and everyone treats their inbox like social media now, they're scanning it, right? You're trying to grab that moment. So to grab that person's pause, so they actually will consider the rest of your subject line. So all these things, capitalization and a number and brackets and emoji, they create that pause. Now, what you'll find a million articles about, and I appreciated a blog post that you did, or a LinkedIn post you did the other day, is that I think there's a lot of marketers that still hold back from doing a lot of these tactics in subject line because they believe that that is the reason that they're going to go to the junk folder, that they're going to go to the spam folder, right? And you know more about deliverability than I'll ever know. But the reality of it is, as you know, that if you're going into the junk folder or the spam folder, it's very likely not because you put a number to start your subject line.
Sure.
You have other issues. Now, the other thing I'll say to that, and I won't get on the deliverability thing, but some portion of all email gets to go to the junk folder. It's going to happen. That's called life. And then to not get super technical, I mean, over 95% of all email marketers are sending out on what's called a shared IP, right? They're not sending out on these dedicated IPs. When you send out on a shared IP, you're sharing reputation with a zillion other marketers. And the idea that because you put the number 7 to start your subject line on this email is the root cause that you're going to the junk folder when you're on a shared IP with 50 other marketers is ridiculous. So I like trying to liberate marketers from saying, yes, you can put free in the subject line. You can use an exclamation point. You can use brackets. You can use an emoji. Do all of these things because you'll get more engagement. And it's not the reason you're having a problem, at least in my opinion.